Hi, it's Lee and welcome to the Tesla Economist. Okay, let's talk about this shareholder meeting. I think we'll just skip to when Elon gets on stage and just talk about the highlights. Alright, it was kind of cool when Elon said they'd do a third-party audit and even put a webcam on the cobalt mines to further reinforce that Tesla is a company that cares about ethics. He also reminds us that most of the vehicles that Tesla use are LFP and only the nickel batteries have cobalt. Anyway, more talk about Master Plan Part 3 and sustainability, but something Elon does say is the way to think about sustainability is the faster they can make battery packs, the faster we can move to a sustainable energy economy, which is exactly what I always say. It's all about batteries, people, and how many cells and batteries Tesla has. Elon points out that the next 12 months in the economy will be tough, which is understandable, but he seems to think that the economy will correct itself after that, presumably due to his belief on actually seeing deflation rather than just disinflation, and that the Fed are using lagging indicators. On the other hand, the Fed will be relentless until they hit their inflation targets. But like we say, no one has a crystal ball, but generally recessions last around a couple of years. However, entering into the recovery period of the economy, after that, Elon thinks Tesla will do exceedingly well. In other words, when interest rates are lowered and there is more consumer confidence. As Tesla should, because their cars will be cheaper and consumers will have more discretionary income within time in order to buy said cars. We're then told that Tesla Model 3 has a cost of ownership comparable to a Toyota Corolla, which is the best-selling car in the world. Except now Elon says the Model Y will be the best-selling car in the world this year. We hear that the Cybertruck is still on schedule for production this year, and that the product is likely better than expectations. This is obviously a highly anticipated vehicle, and once we see it finally come off the production line, it will have a lot of doubters start believing that Tesla is capable of what they say they are. Then we hear that we have 2 new products coming, which most of us infer to be the products that we saw in the product lineup on Investor Day, which were covered up. And most of us think that they are a van and a compact or robotaxi, depending on what you infer Model 2, for lack of a better word, to be. But they should both be Gen 3 vehicles and likely using iron cathode batteries. Anyway, Elon says combined, these will be in the order of 5 million units a year. The current model range is around 2.5 million a year when at capacity, possibly approaching 3 million when Cybertruck is ramped. So when these new products hit capacity, we're at 8 million units a year. If Tesla can generate just $5,000 operating profit per vehicle, then that's $40 billion of operating profit a year. And this doesn't include the semi-truck, energy, or any other areas of the business. Even if that takes 5 years, it's worth waiting for. Although we do expect another 12 million unit sales a year by the end of the decade, as this was once again reinforced at the meeting that we're still aiming for 20 million units a year. Anyway, this was the first time we'd heard guidance for unit sales for these new products. Then we were shown some clips of how Optimus is progressing, and it looks pretty cool. Still hard for Wall Street to believe though, but who else is getting this far with robots that will have so many useful, profitable applications and are scalable and affordable? Anyway, then we move on to questions, which in my opinion were quite disappointing. What an opportunity. Elon even says, hit me with your toughest questions. We get ridiculous questions like, will there be a Tesla RV? One about extending financing to 10 years, but Elon says that has more to do with the banks. Then we get to meet Kevin. He says that he sees Netflix advertised everywhere, and that's the equivalent of $1,000 per vehicle that Tesla sells with their budget. And even if it's just half that at $500, then that will still provide a lot of exposure for Tesla. Kevin says that people are still living in the past of how they view Teslas, and all that old FUD that has stuck, when in actual fact, the product has evolved a lot since. Then Elon says that he talks to a lot of people, and they think Teslas are still super expensive, when actually the starting price for a Tesla is below the average auto price in the US, which was Tesla's goal. They always intended on making cars that were affordable to the general public. The overall point being that there are amazing features and functionality about Teslas that people just don't know about. Like I say, we're in an echo chamber and know so much about the product. But I also find myself continually explaining what Teslas can do to people, and even taking them for drives and impressing them with just my basic autopilot. Elon eventually says he is open to taking suggestions and that Tesla will try a little advertising and see how it goes. Now, I would say that it is likely that Kevin alone didn't just convince Elon that Tesla should advertise, and this has been already pre-planned, possibly from other investors being vocal about Tesla's advertising. The community was actually quite divided by the subject, with the permabulls saying that Tesla don't need to advertise and they know what they're doing. However, said bulls are now going to change their tune if Tesla does advertise. I personally hope they do advertise and look forward to seeing the ads too. I think this will also be positive for the stock price, with the brand, company, products and features gaining more exposure. I was thinking it might even start when the Model 3 Highland is launched. And the audience response to this was loud to that too, implying investors are very happy to hear that Tesla are going to indeed start advertising. Of course, we are uncertain of what mediums Tesla will choose to advertise. Who knows, perhaps Tesla might even advertise on Twitter. Remember though, the cost of advertising per vehicle sold will be higher than Ford or GM, as Tesla still sell relatively fewer vehicles. So Tesla may choose a more targeted approach like online advertising rather than the likes of TV or billboards. Then we have a question about FSD, but the same information we always hear about the March of Nines and all that. Elon's asked about mining lithium and how the industry is not moving fast enough, but Elon says that the limiting factor is not the mining, it's the processing, and it's about how fast you can process the lithium, hence why Tesla started their own lithium processing plant in Corpus Christi that they recently broke ground on. There was a question about the Roadster 2 and when that will be released, but again, these are not Tesla investor questions, more for Tesla consumers. Tesla Boomer Mum asks what the top auto margin will be when we have software as a service or FSD, and eventually Elon says that we're looking at around 20 to 25%, but then more when we have robotaxis. Then another consumer question about seatbelts, but then also a battery question, and Tesla still has a path to higher energy density, lower cost cells than anyone else. But it is a difficult thing to do, but Elon thinks they are tracking to success in that regard. But then someone asks if Elon is stepping down as CEO, which has caused a bit of FUD lately as rumours circulated, and Elon quickly denies that is the case and says he is not stepping down, which is obviously good to hear. In fact, this whole meeting has much more positive energy from Elon than we've had seen recently, which I think was good for the sentiment of the stock. Then Elon says that Tesla has the most advanced real-world AI. Nothing else is even close, which is reassuring, as AI is going to be big, and I think is going to be the next serious bubble. So it would be good to be holding Tesla shares through such a bubble. Then Cybertruck. Elon says that they will ramp up slowly, like an S-curve, of which we already knew, but then up to around 250,000 units a year, depending on what demand is like. I've said in the past I thought Cybertruck might be about 350,000 units a year when ramped, but Elon says they will make as many as people want, which may be around 500,000 a year even, but it will be hard to make the cost affordable. Then really no other questions that really pertain to shareholders. I guess they're just people who are more excited about the products rather than the future of the company. I would have liked to have heard something about Giga Mexico though, like when they will break ground. Anyway, there wasn't really that much new info here, but the overall sentiment felt good, with positive energy from Elon. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.